All right, well, welcome into another edition of Great Eight Rankings. Nolan Knight, Madeline Frentrist. Week 9 of the season is here. Just a few weeks left in the regular season. Then it's time for the playoffs.
I know. I'm like, slow down. I really don't want it to be over yet, but I am really, really excited for the playoffs because there is so much talent here.
Yeah, last week brought us, probably one of our best slates of games that we've had. You think to that Trinity St. Chris game that ended up being, maybe the game of the weekend. Some other big matchups. Hanover was undefeated, went on the road to Varina. Varina got a big win. And then our game of the week, Dinwiddie versus Thomas Dale. I mean, you couldn't draw it up any better. Two undefeated teams facing off in the same district. And you were out there for that one. What was it like?
Yeah, such a great atmosphere out there at Dinwiddie. I was welcomed with open arms and like given dinner on the sidelines.
Yeah,
there.
take
like,
notes, teams. Madeline was pumped up to get some concessions.
Yeah, so shout out to the Dinwiddie community for that. But they really all rally behind that team so much. And I think that probably has a little bit to do with why they're so pumped up on the sidelines. Like every drive, like no matter how it ended, I felt like Dinwiddie kind of came off and was just, if it was a bad drive, let's, get out there next time and, fix our mistakes, and then if it was a good drive, like you could just sense that energy. But
absolutely,
Thomas Dale put up a great fight as well.
One of the best atmospheres for football in our region. And here is your recap from the sidelines at Dinwiddie High School. Let's check it out.
Well, it was a battle of the undefeated Central District teams for our Week 8 8Sports Blitz game of the week, the Thomas Dale Knights and the Dinwiddie Generals. Both defenses showed up tonight, but ultimately the team who remains undefeated had the offense to go with it. Jumping to the second quarter, Dinwiddie up 3-0, and they're back in the red zone, and it's a handoff to Joshua Adams. He makes some defenders miss, and he's in for the touchdown, making it 10-0 Dinwiddie, and that's how the first half would end. In the third quarter, Thomas Dale puts together a solid drive, and Wyatt Jessup hands it off to Jaden Height, who breaks a tackle to find the end zone, and it's 10-6. Then it's a Generals drive, and Zion Boyso sends one over to Nyan Mason, and it's tipped, but he somehow grabs it for the score. Generals now up 17-6. The Knights need to find an answer. Jessup again handing it off to Height. Height breaking through the pile to find the end zone, and with a good two-point conversion, it's 17-14 Generals. But the Generals offense never wavered. Boyso under pressure, throwing, finding Zaylin Mason for the catch that would set Boyso up to punch it in for the touchdown, making the final of this one 24-14. We are here with Dinwiddie Generals head coach Billy Mills. Coach, you told me earlier this week that it would be about which team could make more plays than the other. What do you think about your team's effort to do that tonight?
Incredible. I mean, every time we play these guys, it goes down to one or two scores, and it's always a war. They're always playing hard. We're always playing hard. I mean, they do a great job over there, especially Bruce. Man, that defense is lights out, and it was hard to move the ball on them. So I was real proud of the offense that we showed tonight and being able to go against a top-notch defense like those guys.
The Knights fall to 6-1 on the season, and the Generals keep the win streak alive at 8-0, looking like serious title contenders as the playoffs loom closer and closer. Reporting for 8 Sports, I'm Madeline Frentress.
Yeah, big win for Dinwiddie. They remain undefeated. I wanted to take the time to kind of look at some of the other scores from this past week since we had so many great games. Got a couple of ads here on the website. Dinwiddie with the big win, 21-14. Midlothian shut out Cosby in what I thought was a surprising score. LC Bird looking like a team that kind of wants to make a run in that Class 6 division. Only 6 teams make it in this region for the Class 6 playoffs. So Bird right there still on the cusp. Matoaka got their first win of the year. That's a score that kind of stuck out to me. Hermitage, look out, man. They had that one loss to Varina early in the year, but they took down a Glen Allen team that had really started to look like a really good team. Armstrong, a Class 2 team, goes on the road to Class 4 Atlee and gets a shutout win. So we're kind of starting to really get a better idea of which teams can probably make playoff runs and which teams probably have some work to do. It's going to be harder to make a deep run.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, starting with probably the team that we think is, obviously we're ranking them number one, but I just don't see I don't see I don't see a weakness, like a red flag for this team at this point. Dinwiddie, they're going to be our number 1 team. They moved up from number 2.
Finally have some movement in our rankings. It's been pretty stagnant the past couple of weeks, but teams have been winning. After the amount of work that we've seen from Dinwiddie, the teams they've been able to beat, I think they're deserving of the number 1 spot. Benedictine, they got a big win against what was a pretty good North Cross team, but it was 14-12. Whereas Dinwiddie took down what was an undefeated team by 2 scores in our game of the week. So I think they're fitting to be our new number 1, and it's definitely not a slight to Benedictine by any means.
No, absolutely not. And I mean that puts us with Benedictine at number 2, which those teams like you sasaid, they're so close that I think it's almost like a 1A 1B situation as opposed to 1 and 2. But Benedictine remains undefeated at 8-0. Number 3, we have the Manchester Lancers.
Before we get to the Lancers, I did want to say the upcoming games for both Dinwiddie and Benedictine this Friday night. The Dinwiddie Generals will be on the road at Meadowbrook, and then they only have 1 game left. That's against Prince George. And then Benedictine, as mentioned, they lost to, or rather beat North Cross on Saturday. Who is a team that lost to Trinity. There's a very much so like transition property to do with all of our private schools. But this upcoming Saturday, they will take on Woodbury Forest at 2:00 on Saturday. That's a team that lost to Trinity as well. And then the last game of the year for Benedictine is that they'll take on Trinity in a big Saturday matchup. That'll probably decide the seeding for the VISAA playoffs.
Yeah, that'll be a huge one. That'll be a huge one there at the very end. It'll come. I would bet that it'll come down to the wire there at that one.
Yeah, from what we've seen from all of our VISAA teams, everybody's really good.
Yeah, very talented group that one is. As far as number 3, we have the Manchester Lancers at 7-0. They're staying at number 3, so we have a lot of movement. Not with Manchester.
Last week they had the bye week, so didn't really get to see them in action. But this week they will go on the road at Powhatan. If things continue the way the Lancers have been able to beat teams, I think that'll be a win for them. And then their biggest test of the season by far, last week of the year at Huguenot. Looking forward to that one.
Ooh, that one's going to be a good one. That week 10,
there's a lot of really good
stacked.
It's and that's how it was last week too.
It's absolutely stacked. At number 4, we have Highland Springs at 5-2. We've said it multiple weeks in a row now that their 2 losses were by 1 score into very good teams, and they. They're I mean, it's 5-2, but they're better than their record says.
Yeah, absolutely. And they got a good win this past week over Friendship Collegiate, 29-18. And then this week they take on Hermitage, which has been voted our game of the week. You were out there this week to talk with both coaches. What did Lauren Johnson and Coach Pierre have to say?
Yeah, so Coach Johnson basically just said that they have to keep playing to the standard that they've played, pretty much all season. They shut out Phoebus a couple weeks ago, which was a huge win for them. And he just said that the guys got to stay focused, that they don't want to make it too big of a game, because if they make it too big, they may put pressure on themselves. They just need to keep doing what they're doing, basically. And then kind of same thing for Hermitage. I mean, this is going to be one of their toughest challenges yet. I mean, like we said, they lost to Verina a couple weeks ago in our game of the week, and that was, I think, a 33-10 loss, something around there. It was by multiple scores. So they're going to try to, they're going to look to be more disciplined. That was one of the biggest things that Coach Jean-Pierre said, that their team is going to be defined by discipline in this game, eliminating penalties, and just kind of keeping their head on their shoulders.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's a team that just beat Glen Allen, who was a team that hadn't lost since the week 2 of the season. Granted, the Glen Allen quarterback went down in that game, Puccinelli, but Hermitage is a really good team, and I think we'll find out how good Hermitage is. If they can beat Highland Springs, that's a team that can make a postseason run.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, Highland Springs schedules the tough teams to kind of judge themselves, and I think this will be kind of a judgment game for Hermitage. But that brings us to number 5, the Verina Blue Devils, also sitting at 5-2 on the season. They were ranked 5 last week, so they didn't get any movement there.
Yeah, no. Last week they did defeat an undefeated Hanover team 35-3. think we kind of saw that coming. Hanover kind of has a hard time moving the ball, and Verona has a really good defense, so that's not a good combination for the Hawks. But this week, they'll take on Atlee on Thursday, and then the week after that, probably the biggest test left on Verona's schedule, of course, against Highland Springs in the big rivalry matchup. That'll be next Thursday, the day before Halloween, October 30th. So we got a big game coming up next week as well.
How are we going to choose game of the week in week 10?
Well, that's on Thursday, so that one makes it easy for us.
Okay.
But it'll be fun to give that game all of the glory that it deserves on a Thursday when it's one of our only matchups.
Yeah, if I'm in Richmond and I just need
if you
something to
good
do,
high
like
school
I'm
football,
going to
you
that game.
Well, it might sell out. I mean, that's one of the biggest
Yeah.
matchups and rivalries in our region.
Yeah, that'll be one to look out for. And that brings us to number 6, Louisa County, who moved up 2 spots from last week's number 8 spot.
Yeah, beneficiaries of a couple of losses. Of course, Thomas Dale lost in our game of the week, so they kind of got edged out by a little bit. Trinity lost to St. Chris, and that kind of opened up the door here for Louisa County to move up. I mean, they're undefeated on the season. This past week, blew out Albemarle 65-14, and then this week they'll take on Orange County. They should be able to handle them, and then their only big test left that they have on their schedule is Western Albemarle, and they're 5-2 on the season. So it's very possible that the Lions could win the next 2 games and finish the season undefeated, which I don't want to say it's a surprise, but I didn't expect to see it at the start of the year.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, we didn't expect it necessarily, but we've been saying, I think, for the past couple of weeks, we don't really expect them to.
No,
I mean, the
they've looked
run that
good.
they've been on, we don't
Absolutely.
expect them to lose any more games. And that's a team that, with best running back, one of the best
In the
running backs in
country.
the nation,
Yeah.
they could make a deep playoff run.
And I'm excited to see them make the playoffs and then face off against more of the teams from the Central region. Because them being in
Yeah.
that other region is kind of hard to get to their games.
Get out
sometimes.
there, but yeah, I want to see the Lions and closer to home. As far as number 7, we've got the Huguenot Falcons, who have been honorable mentions for weeks and weeks and weeks now. There was just our top 8 so tight that there just wasn't room for them in here, but I think they could have been ranked at any of those weeks before.
Absolutely. Start of the year, we had them ranked inside the top 5. I think deservingly so. The hype around their offense was through the roof. And they got upset by the St. Christopher's team that, last year wasn't all that great, but this year St. Christopher's team's really good. They just beat Trinity, who was previously undefeated. And now they are rolling. Took down Powhatan last week 42-3. This week they should make easy work of Richmond High School for the Arts. And then the last week of the season, their last test really on their schedule is a matchup against undefeated Manchester. So a lot to look forward to for that matchup. But
These
I think
matchups.
deservingly 7th is a fair ranking for them, considering the fact that they have lost a game this year, or we have so many teams that are still undefeated at this point.
Yeah, it's just been so hard to rank these teams. And I mean, we have to consider that their loss did come to a really good St. Chris team in week 1. I think they've grown a lot since then. Number 8, we have the Armstrong Wildcats that are getting ranked for the first time.
Yeah.
So shout out to Armstrong. They are undefeated. Last week, like I said, they were an honorable mention, and they're finally in our top 8.
Yeah, Class 2 team. Not easy to get ranked at that point, but when you go on the road to Class 4 Atlee and blow them out 38-0, I think you deserve to make it onto the rankings as an undefeated team, as a team that I think absolutely has state championship aspirations. They have been rolling, and the last real test they have on their schedule will be Hanover in 2 weeks. That'll be interesting because Hanover's a good higher class team. Not to slight Atlee at all, but Hanover was undefeated before that loss to Verona. So if Armstrong can take down Hanover, look out. I mean, that's seriously a state championship contender. But as for what they're doing this Friday, they're on the bye.
And then as far as our honorable mentions go, we have Caroline in there for the first time.
Yeah, undefeated on the season, 7-0 to start their year. I think it's the first time they've ever been 7-0. So absolutely want to give them their flowers with the success that the Cavaliers have had.
And then
Got Hermitage
is in our.
Yeah, you got a small screen.
I couldn't
over
read
there.
it. I had a really small screen, but Hermitage is in there in our honorable mentions as well, and they'll play.
Just
in our
one
game of the
loss
week.
on the year to that Verona team, as we mentioned.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, Verina, one of the best teams.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're in our grade A rankings. They're number 5, so they get a shout out as well. And then St. Christopher's, who has been such a solid team all year, was able to get that win over Trinity and over Huguenot in week 1. So they have to get a shout out as well.
Yeah, they got 2 losses on the year, but after taking down Trinity, who I thought, could even be ranked higher in our rankings, now I got a whole new respect for them. It'll be interesting to what they can do the rest of the year. They play a North Cross team this upcoming weekend, and that's a North Cross team that went wire to wire with Benedictine, who's our second-ranked team, and then they'll finish the year at Collegiate. And, of course, they just beat Trinity. That's their lone loss. That's the next team on our honorable mention list. So our VISAA teams, they are so tight and so talented. It'll be fun to figure out who ends up claiming the Class 1 championship.
Yeah, that'll definitely be exciting to watch. And then rounding out our honorable mentions, we have Thomas Dale, who of course lost to Dinwiddie in our game of the week last week. They competed with them for sure. So that's why they still have to be honorably mentioned. Yeah. But they do take that loss and dropped 6-1 on the season. So that's why they've dropped to our honorable mentions. Yep. But they got
still a really good team to look out for in the playoffs. They're doing good things over there. Excited to see what the rest of their year looks like. I wanted to give a shout out to some of our other smaller Class 1 schools, Class 2 schools. Nottoway 7-1 to start the year. They're off to a great start. And Lunenburg Central has sneakily remained undefeated on the year as well. They're 7-0 to start their season. So some really good high school football taking place here in Central Virginia. Week 9 of the season is here. I think we have 2 weeks left in the regular season, and then it's time for the playoffs. It has quickly gotten here. I cannot believe how quick the end of the season has come. But last week brought us some great games, and of course, if you want to check out what we're doing this upcoming week, as we mentioned earlier, it's Hermitage Highland Springs for our Week 9 Game of the Week. Be sure to tune in to the Blitz. Jamal will be on the sidelines for that one for our Game of the Week as Madeline joins us in studio this week, for a little different for our 8Sports Blitz show. So looking forward to that. You won't want to miss it. That's Friday night at 11:15. And of course, we'll have full coverage from our Game of the Week on Friday and a preview tomorrow. But we'll end things the way we always do with this week's, or I guess it was Week 8's 8 Sports Blitz Top Lights. Good night, everybody. We'll see you on Friday night.